Hello, my name is Hannah Fishbeck, and I am the Student Business Office Treasurer for the 2016 to 2017 academic school year. Today, I'm going to host a treasure workshop with you over video so that you can become more comfortable in your role as the treasurer of your organization. Keep in mind, watching and participating in this treasurer workshop is mandatory for all student organization treasurers. At the end of the workshop, we will have a brief quiz to test your knowledge and comprehension of the responsibilities and policies and even procedures that you must follow as your organization's treasurer. All treasurers that complete the video and quiz by Friday, September 16th at 5 p.m. will receive an additional $10 into their non-student activity fee account. During the video, make sure that your sound is on so that you can hear me loud and clear. Next, something that might be useful for you to grab right now is some extra scratch paper to write down a few notes over the course of the training. Feel free to pause the video whenever you need, as I will be taking brief pauses in between slides for transition purposes. In order for you to be able to access the quiz after you watch the video, you can click on the link that I'll provide to you in the email that gives you this treasure training. Just follow the link to the site that will show you where the video is, and then you can go further down and see where the following quiz is. This is me. I want to show you all what I look like so you can put a face to the name. But more importantly, I want you all to be able to recognize me and feel free to ask me for help whenever you have any questions or concerns about your student organization or group's account. And if you really can't recognize me, 99% of the time I'm wearing my wonderful glasses as seen in the picture. Now it's time to get down to business. I want to begin the training part of our workshop by first discussing what my role is as the Student Business Office Treasurer. As a Student Business Office Treasurer, I serve as an intermediary between the Administrative Business Office and student organization leaders. On a regular basis, I manage and maintain student organization staff and non-staff accounts, process requests for student organization treasurers to use and access their funds, send these requests on to the business office, and provide financial guidance to student organization leaders. Don't be panicking yet. We will be discussing most of these items later on in the various slides. To sum up my role as a Student Business Office Treasurer, I work as an intermediary in hopes of making the funding process as smooth as possible. This is a picture showing all of you the desk I work at in the Park Student Leadership Center. I am always open to visitors who may have questions pertaining to their student organization's accounts. When you enter the Park Student Leadership Center, you just keep walking straight and eventually you will find my area. I also wanted to start off by giving you all some information into when you're able to contact me. My office hours are listed on the above slide. These are the times I will be present at my desk working throughout the semester. However, I will constantly be checking my email throughout the week, even when I am not at my desk. So if you have an urgent situation and are not able to come talk to me during my office hours, the best way to get a hold of me is through email. These office hours will change from semester to semester, so I ask that you double check my office hours if you are wanting to come talk to me in person. There will also be a sign posted on my desk with my office hours throughout the semester if you ever happen to forget. Now we're going to talk about what your role is as the treasurer of your organization. One of the most important responsibilities that you have is being able to maintain your staff or student activity fee account and non-staff account. And basically what I want you to be able to get from this workshop, one of the main things is understanding the difference between these two accounts and then how we can file and fill out the proper funding request forms for that student activity fee money. I also want you to be able to understand how you can access and use these funds for your organization's specific needs. Another important role as the treasurer of your organization is that you are responsible for signing and filling out the appropriate forms to access those funds. The most important thing that I stress every year with new treasurers is that communicating with me is key, and just communicating with everyone within your organization. This makes the process of filling out forms, requesting these different funds, figuring out what people need receipts from is just a key part of communicating and can make the process of being the treasurer much more smoother throughout the school year. And it's just important that you ask questions for help or whenever you're confused. A lot of these terms and a lot of the processes we're going to talk today are not something that you're going to get on the first try. So asking questions whenever you need, especially from me or someone within your organization, is key to your role as the treasurer for your organization. Now, we're going to jump into some of the more important items of our discussion today by talking about each student organization's student activity fee account, or otherwise known as staff account, and their non-student activity fee account, or better known as non-staff account. Each semester, every student pays an activity fee. This year's fee is $114 for the semester, or $228 for the year. The student activity fee provides funding for the student benefits, programming, and activities on campus year-round. Part of these funds are subtracted from the student activity fee at the beginning of the academic year and are auto-distributed to certain departments and projects on campus. These include the Concordia, the newspaper readership program, residence hall programming, the map bus program, the Olson Forum Fitness Facility, the Sustainability Fund, and undergraduate research. After these funds have gone through auto-distribution, the major organizations and programs on campus then receive their budgeted amounts. These organizations and programs submit a budget to the Student Involvement Council, or SIC, and the Student Affairs Committee in March of the prior year. Funds are then subtracted from the student activity fee in the fall based on the budgets that are approved in the previous spring semester. The major organizations and programs that receive the requested funds include Campus Entertainment Commission, Campus Ministry Commission, Campus Service Commission, Homecoming, Orientation, and Student Government Association. These organizations receive this funding because they are the major organizations on campus that tend to put the most events on year-round and are also dedicated to making sure students are involved in campus life and various activities. After the major organizations and programs on campus receive their funds, the remaining funds left over in the student activity fee account are then used for allocation among the many other student organizations on campus throughout the remainder of the year. For other organizations to receive funds from the student activity fee account, they must submit a request to the Student Involvement Council online. The Student Involvement Council then meets to approve or deny your organization's request. Last year, the Student Involvement Council approved 70% of the total funds that were requested from the student activity fee. Most of the time, the SIC approves the full request. Sometimes they may approve only a certain portion of the funds requested, and sometimes they may deny the entire request. For more information on when requests are due to the SIC, when the SIC meets, and when you'll find out whether or not you received the requested funds, go to Concordia's website, click on Student Life, then Student Organizations, then click on Funding/Fundraising on the right side in the maroon box, and then finally click on Student Activity Fee Funding in the bottom yellow box. This is a screenshot of where you go to request student activity fee funds. Look at the allocation dates and submit your request before the desired time or need. Please keep in mind that these are the only dates that allocations will be taking place, so I highly recommend that you submit your request as early as possible or as soon as possible before desired time or need of the funds. Keep in mind that the Student Involvement Council typically does not do any retroactive funding. Basically, they will not give you the funds to cover an expense after the fact unless it is a special circumstance. So it is recommended that you request your funding in advance. Additionally, if you ever have questions or need other information on staff requests, you can also contact me, as I'm also sitting as the SIC Commissioner for this academic year. Now, you may be wondering, when you submit a budget request for funds, what can I actually request these funds for? Various things, whether it be on campus or off campus, can be used through student activity fee funds. This could be travel, it could be transportation through Concordia vehicles, lodging, or even just publicity that you want to publish within the Park Student Leadership Center. Various things you can request these staff funds for, but also keep in mind there's things that you cannot request these funds for. For example, you can't request staff funds for any club t-shirts, food, alcohol, or anything that is within Concordia's policies and regulations that is not allowed on campus. However, when you have your non-staff account or your non-staff funds, they can be used for practically anything within, again, Concordia's policies and regulations. Now, I want to take some time to talk about the differences between student organization student activity fee, or SAF account, and non-student activity fee, or non-SAF account. This is important for all treasurers to know so that they know which account to use when wanting to access or use funds. Most student organizations and groups on campus have a SAF and non-SAF account. Some organizations may only have one or the other. It just depends entirely on your organization structure, how active your organization is, and what activities or events your group does on a year-to-year basis. If you look at the slide, it lists out what is particularly allowed within the SAF account, and just some general knowledge, like it's funded by the student activity fee, you request money through the SIC. An important fact to note is that any unused SAF funds are cleared from the account at the end of the school fiscal year. So basically, a lot of orgs come into the new school year thinking, oh, we had funds left over from last spring, we can use those again. This is entirely false, because these funds that go unused at the end of the year end up getting cleared out and going into a different account. So basically, you have until April 30th to use your funds within your SAF account that you're allocated. Allocated funds must only be used for what they were requested and allocated for. So if you request funds for a trip, you have to use those funds for a trip. Or if you request to bring a speaker to campus, those funds can only be used towards that speaker. However, when we look at the non-SAF, there's different elements that make up your non-SAF account. This particularly comes from funds that you deposit, whether it be student dues or money you receive from fundraising. These are funds that the organization themselves raise, so they can be used for anything within your organization, again, within Concordia's policies. The non-SAF account does not get cleared ever. So you basically, if you remember that you have money in your non-SAF account in the spring semester, and in the fall semester you want to use some of those funds, you can. You do not need to request to use these funds from SIC, and as I stated again, these funds tend to carry over from year to year. Continuing on from this, when we talk about the SAF account, it's important to think of these funds as maybe like a loan that you request from the bank, but you never technically have to pay back. And the loan agreement itself would include the terms of how you can use those allocated funds based upon the approval from the loaner, the Student Involvement Council. However, when we think of the non-SAF, these are funds that your organization works hard to earn, and they're able to use for their own needs, kind of like a personal bank account. And the funds in this account are never cleared or expired, and they, again, carry from year to year. Now comes the more difficult part of being the treasurer for your student organization or group. Understanding the ways to use and access the funds in your organization's account is one of the main reasons I exist to help your organization. There are many different ways to use and access the funds in one of your organization's accounts. As the treasurer for your organization, it is very important that you understand the policies and procedures of accessing and using these funds so that you can effectively manage your organization's accounts. Some of the most common ways that treasurers use and access funds from their group or organization's accounts is through payments, purchases, deposits, and gifts and prizes. To start off, one of the most common expenses that student organizations have is on-campus charges. When making an on-campus charge, you'll be need to ask to provide a FOAP or 18-digit account number. One of the most common mistakes that I see treasurers do is use the wrong account number. One of the most important aspects of being the treasurer for your student organization that I cannot stress enough is that you must email or contact me every time that you need to provide any form of account number. Why, you may ask? The reason is because account numbers change depending for payments on campus, charges, depending on the various reasons for the expense. For example, you cannot use the same account number for catering that I provided for you to use for postage from the post office. All the expenses that your organization must encounter on campus each have their own separate and unique account number. Thus, you must contact me every time you need to provide an account number for anything. I cannot stress this enough. Some examples of on-campus charges that you will need to provide an account number for include catering, event setup, campus vehicles, postage, travel, and supplies used in the park. The same thing applies to off-campus purchases or payments. You must contact me every time you need an account number because they change depending on the reason for the expense. However, in contrast to on-campus charges, there are two different options for making purchases or payments off-campus. The first way is through reimbursement. This is where you would pay for the expense yourself and then request to be reimbursed for that expense. The second way is through a direct payment where Concordia issues a check directly to a vendor where you purchase the products or services that were rendered. An example of when you could fill out a reimbursement request is when you buy pizza for your organization's monthly meeting. You would then fill out a reimbursement form for the organization member that purchased the pizza. When filling out the request, you must also attach the original itemized receipt. The itemized receipt contains the business name, the date, the item or items purchased, and the price of each item, the total amount of the bill, and the method of the payment. It is very important to note that you must submit your reimbursement request, and itemized receipt to the student business office, aka me, within 30 days of the purchase. There are no ifs, ands, or buts. This is IRS policy and allows Concordia to be in compliance with all federal financial regulations. If you do not submit the request to me within 30 days of the purchase, you will not be fully reimbursed. If you ever want to drop something off of my desk outside of my office hours, there is a basket on the desk next to my office hours sign where you can drop off any forms or receipts. This is a copy of what the reimbursement form looks like. In the top part, you fill out your name, the student organization, and kind of which account you want to use. You leave the middle box that kind of has a square around it for me to fill out, and then fill out kind of that next part of that middle section, explain the date of the expense, what it was, why you had the expense, and the amount. Then, at the bottom of the form, you must sign as the treasurer of your organization, and the person receiving the reimbursement must sign as well. On this slide, I have copies showing different types of receipts. If you look at the receipt in the top left corner and the receipt on the right, these are perfect examples of what an itemized receipt looks like. However, when you look at the receipt in the bottom left corner, this is not what we would consider an itemized receipt because it doesn't have listed out what the purchase was, for how much. It has various other things needed listed on it, but it doesn't show us what you purchased and the amount that each of those different items were. If you do not want to fill out a reimbursement request and turn in an itemized receipt, another option for off-campus purchases or payments is through a direct payment voucher as stated previously. Again, a direct payment voucher is where Concordia will issue a check directly to the vendor or company for products or services rendered. This process is typically used when your group or organization receives an invoice from the company. Concordia will also need a W-9 specific tax form from the company if they are already not on file with the college. You can send in the direct payment voucher and I will notify you if you need to turn in a W-9 for the company if this is the case. You can also send me a quick email and ask before you send in the direct payment voucher. Or if you want to see yourself if the vendor is on file beforehand, you can look for the description or link to the vendor search in your treasure handbook. Something important to note about direct payment vouchers is that the college only cuts checks once a week. So as the treasurer, you should make sure to submit this direct payment way in advance if the company needs the payment at a certain time or before a specific date. For example, your organization might use a direct payment voucher to pay a speaker that you brought on campus to talk about a specific topic that your organization feels strongly about, and your organization receives an invoice from the speaker. This is what you could use a direct payment voucher for. This is a copy of what the direct payment voucher form looks like. It's somewhat similar to the reimbursement form. However, in the top section, this is the part I fill out, and then you fill out the description of the request in the middle part of the form. Then, at the bottom, again, don't forget to sign yourself as the preparer of the form, followed by my signature. The next thing that we're going to talk about is the gift prize award form. These are used when your organization gives out prizes, mainly in the form of gift cards to other students. The person that receives the prize must fill out the form, and then if you bought the prizes and wanted to be reimbursed for them, you would attach this form to the reimbursement request with the receipt of when you purchased the prize. You must make sure that you fill out every time an individual receives any form of a gift, prize, or award from your organization. Some student organizations may request funding from the SIC for prizes, gifts, or awards to be handed out at campus events. However, a forewarning is that the SIC committee typically follows the guidelines of allocating funding to these requests only if the prizes, gifts, or awards are going to be handed out to students, staff, or faculty of Concordia College. If they're going to be handed out to individuals that are not students, staff, or faculty, a W-9 must be completed for those individuals receiving the prize, gift, or award along with the gift prize award form. This is an example of what the gift prize award form looks like. As you would see, if you had employees or students filling out the form, they would fill out the left middle box, and if you had non-employees or non-students, they would have to fill out the middle right section there. Please fill out this form in its entirety anytime that you're handing it in to me, or if you have any questions, I can also help you fill out the various sections of the form. Now that we have discussed the expense side of maintaining your organization's account, we're going to skip over to the revenue side. One of the most common ways for organizations to put revenue in their account is through deposits. For example, if your organization collects dues or does some form of fundraising, you will use the deposit slip that you can find at Concordia's website. Directions to the link for the deposit slip can also be found in your treasurer handbook. Similar to expenses, you must email me each time that you want to make a deposit to receive the appropriate FOP or account number because, again, these account numbers change for different types of revenues. Organizations typically deposit money into their non-staff account so that it is there for them to use for anything and whenever they need it. Deposits into any organization's non-staff account usually include membership dues, fundraising money, or money used for t-shirts. This is a copy of what the deposit slip looks like. As you can see, you would have to fill out the account number that you would get from me and the various coin, checks, or actual currency that you receive, along with your signature and the date, and you would hand this in to the cashier in the business office. One of the many ways that organizations on campus can put money into their non-staff account is through fundraising, as previously stated. If your organization ever wants to do a fundraiser, they must fill out a fundraising permit first. The permit is found online and is very self-explanatory. The permit is basically just asking questions like what is the name of your organization, what type of fundraiser your organization is doing, will there be any food, when do you plan on having the fundraiser, and many other similar type questions. One very important thing to note about fundraising is that the fundraising permit must be filled out at least 2 weeks in advance of the start of the fundraiser. Keep this in mind because any funds that you receive from a fundraiser follow the deposit policy and must be deposited within 5 days of receiving the funds. Believe it or not, there are times when special circumstances take place. I highly advise all of you to come talk to me whenever you have a question, but also if you ever run into any of these special circumstances. If your organization is ever planning to travel internationally, like to Canada, I highly encourage you to get in contact with me before the trip so that we can figure out what we are going to do when handling things like currency exchange rates. Another circumstance may be when your organization is transferring money when working with an on-campus department. Another special circumstance where I highly recommend that you come talk to me is when your organization may use purchase cards, or better known as P cards. These cards work similar to a credit card and charge to your account whatever you use the card for. It is important for me to know on my end if your organization, a member of your organization, or the advisor of your organization is going to use a P card to charge against your account because I have to reconcile the account. It becomes harder for me to reconcile your organization's account if I do not know where the money is going or what is being charged to your account. There are many other events that happen throughout the year that could be classified as special circumstances. These are just some of the special circumstances that I see more often. I suggest that you come talk to me whenever you have a question or concern or feel like you may have some form of this circumstance. I wanted to touch base a little bit more on these purchase cards or P cards. The Office of Student Engagement allows student organizations, any member from your organization, to check out a P card and use. Some of the rules apply with this, being first off, you must come check in with me first. Part of this is to see if your organization has the funds to be able to purchase anything, and when I reconcile to the account, your account does not go negative. You would then go to the Office of Student Engagement and get a P card from Julie, who is the admin assistant, and she's very friendly, I promise. And there's some other specific rules with P cards, being that you can't take them overnight, you can't use them for personal use. If you want to do an online purchase with a P card, you're not permitted to unless you have permission from Julie and the Office of Student Engagement. You also need to bring back an itemized receipt anytime you use a P card so Julie can know specifically what you bought and how much for. There's other rules kind of listed with this, but these are some of the most important ones. And when you go to check out the P card from the Office of Student Engagement in the Park Student Leadership Center, you must sign a memorandum of understanding, basically holding you accountable for the card, and it lists some of the other various rules that go along with this. The various forms that you may need to fill out can be found at Concordia's website. The directions to get to any of these forms online can be found in your Treasure Handbook. We have finally reached the end of our workshop, but before you go, I want to give you some quick contact information. If you ever have any questions or concerns about your student organization's account, or what procedures you need to follow to access or use your organization's funds throughout the year, you can contact me, Hannah, the Student Business Office Treasurer, at sgasbo@cord.edu, or by phone at 218-299-3084. If I cannot answer your question or I'm out of the office, you can also contact Natalie Reinhardt, the Senior Associate Director of Campus Life for Student Engagement, at nreinhardt@cord.edu, or by phone at 218-299-3640. Even though Natalie is another great resource for you to ask questions or address any concerns with your organization's accounts, I require that you always contact me first before going to Natalie, unless, as stated previously, I'm unable to answer your question or I'm out of the office. Thank you so much for listening to this training, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the school year.